By now, we've all heard that Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has released intelligence documents showing that former President Barack Obama prodded his intelligence advisors to come up with a Russian collusion narrative about then President-elect Donald Trump after his victory in the 2016 election. Right before Obama's intervention, the intelligence community had concluded that Russia hadn't interfered in any meaningful way. But Obama was dissatisfied with their conclusions and called a big meeting, which included then DNI James Clapper and then CIA Director John Brennan. After that meeting, Clapper, Brennan, and all the rest could be seen on CNN talking up a crazy narrative that said Donald Trump would not have won in 2016 without help from the Russians. Crazy, especially when you think about how many people vote in the United States. The Russians would have had to convert a lot of people, millions, and turn them into Russian assets. Crazy. But the Democratic Party ate it up. The story dominated the airwaves, even after the narrative was proven to be untrue. And how was it proven? By the special counsel Robert Mueller. After a 2-year investigation, Mueller returned indictments against a Russian troll farm operated by an individual known as Putin's chef, Yevgeny Prigozhin, and against Prigozhin himself. He was a jack-of-all-trades who rose to power through his relationship with Putin. Eventually, Prigozhin became leader of the Wagner Group, a paramilitary organization. Then he launched a failed coup d'etat against Putin, then made peace with Putin, then died when his airplane exploded. But years before his death, the Russian troll farm had taken out a bunch of anti-Hillary Clinton ads on social media, pretending to be Americans. And they had the intent of sowing discord and undermining confidence in America's electoral process. It's the type of thing the Russians have always done. But more importantly, Mueller found no collusion between the Russian trolls and the Trump campaign. In other words, the Russian trolls had not acted at the direction of the Trump campaign or in cahoots with the Trump campaign. The Trump campaign had nothing to do with the Russian trolls. It was a thing that the Russians were doing on their own. Now, Mueller also indicted several Americans who were part of the Trump campaign, such as Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos, etc., but for crimes unrelated to election interference. Now, they were being hounded by the special counsel and the media 24/7. And in the case of Papadopoulos, it seems he got scared and lied to the special counsel about his contacts with Russian individuals. Now, this was before the Ukraine war. It wasn't suspicious necessarily for Americans to have contacts with Russians back then. Even after examining those types of contacts, Mueller found no proof of collusion. As it turned out, the false narrative about collusion was based on a single fabricated document, the Steele dossier, which was commissioned and paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign for president. The dossier contained a bunch of absurd allegations about then-candidate Trump. In 2022, the Clinton campaign was forced to pay a fine of $113,000 to the Federal Election Commission for misreporting the funds spent on the Steele dossier. Clinton's lawyers had hired a research company called Fusion GPS to gather opposition research on then-candidate Trump. The Oppo research became the Steele dossier. The Clinton campaign had obscured its role in manufacturing the dossier by funneling the money to pay for it through a law firm and reporting the payments as legal fees. The major reveal here with the document released by DNI Gabbard is that the false narrative about collusion with Russia seems to have begun with Obama himself. He is alleged to have prodded his intelligence advisors to talk up the conspiracy, which led to years of slander and hateful rhetoric against President Trump and undermined his first term as president. Now, DNI Gabbard has forwarded the intelligence implicating Obama and his inner circle to the FBI and made a criminal referral to the DOJ. Obama was still president when he's alleged to have instigated the conspiracy, so he may have immunity from prosecution if the instigation is deemed to be an official act. However, if Obama continued the activity after he left office, he would be vulnerable to indictment. And the rest of the inner circle, Clapper, Brennan, ex-FBI Director James Comey, certainly they would all be vulnerable to indictment. Now, they've all been referred criminally to the DOJ. They were talking up Russian collusion on CNN, MSNBC, and all the rest during the entirety of President Trump's first term. So there needs to be a determination of the timeline. When did the individuals take the actions alleged? Before or after President Trump's inauguration? Ultimately, it'll be up to the U.S. Supreme Court to decide whether President Obama's actions were immune from criminal prosecution. So the grand jury would have to return an indictment, first of all. The immunity determination is fact-intensive, and those facts have to be adduced at trial. So even if an individual is immune from criminal prosecution, the individual first must be criminally prosecuted before the immunity determination can be made. So there probably will be indictments, unless the timeline can exonerate the individuals. For instance, in the case of former President Obama, if he took no further actions regarding the conspiracy after President Trump's inauguration, he might be in the clear. Now, assuming, though, that in allegedly instigating the conspiracy, his actions were official acts. Now, what would make his actions in allegedly instigating the conspiracy not official acts? For example, if he commandeered private citizens and private instrumentalities in furtherance of the conspiracy, because the distinction is between official acts and unofficial acts or private acts. So the Supreme Court has given us this clear dividing line for guidance. Now, these are just my initial thoughts on this controversy. I'll have more on this in the coming weeks. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe.